Welcome to Unscripted, an IICRC video production. Today we're going to talk about a challenge, specifically a silk challenge. If you're a technician in the cleaning industry, you know that cleaning silk presents unique challenges that require expertise and precision. For furniture cleaning companies, silk's delicate nature and sensitivity to cleaning methods make it one of the most demanding fabrics. Each step must be carefully executed, from stain removal to preventing watermarks to avoid damage and more. Today, we're going to welcome a first-time guest to the program to explore top concerns when cleaning silk upholstery and the techniques used to address them. Tim Damroth in warm San Francisco, California, Tim.
Most of the time, yeah, it's very temperate here.
But tell us a little bit about why delicate fabrics are your passion. Can you start with that?
Most of the phone calls that I get for spots, emergencies, and general cleaning are for natural fibers. And there's not a lot of training that I had as a kid when I first got into cleaning surrounding spot removal on silk, linen, wool, things like that. Just a lot of folklore. And over the years, I learned by watching some of my bosses and colleagues make catastrophic errors, whether it was chemically browning something or overwetting and wrinkling or having to pay for it. And I always like to learn from others, especially in the realm of mistakes.
When a technician knows he has silk, what should run through his head? And maybe talk about how you even know it's silk. I know we can do a burn test, but are there some telltale signs that tells Tim, whoa, let's think about this?
There's always the fiber ID burn test, but then I swear by color fastness, crocking and bleeding, and just making sure we have our chemistry right. Because some of those inherent issues with silk, like its fragility, or its issues, with cleaning products over a certain pH, can be limited by having a healthy fear of the fiber itself. And when you know you have silk, you should always take a moment and think about what you're going to do, even if it's something you're very confident in. And in my experience, that's what I always do is take at least 2 to 5 minutes and just plan out what I'm going to do before I do it to make sure that I don't make a catastrophic error. And it's a very challenging fiber to clean. It has some, moisture retention like wool. And if you don't speed dry it as fast as you can with fans, I prefer a fan. Some people use a hair dryer, or dry it as you go, or avoid saturation completely. Then we run into problems like water marking, bleeding, browning, these kinds of things.
Hmm. I've got a couple pictures here. Let's talk about some jobs you've done. This silk on burlap, kind of a blue chair, interesting pattern. Can you talk about what you did to clean that and the challenges that you faced?
Yeah, actually, so there was a spill from one of my clients, and I walked into a brand new, just bought piece and a drink that had been spilled on it, and I needed to address it. And luckily, I already knew that the client had an appetite for silk and for fine things, natural fibers. And so what I always do is I test the problem areas first after I've done my color fastness and crocking and bleeding tests. And while I'm testing the stain or the, say, greasy arm or whatever it is that needs to be cleaned, I can find out a lot. And one of the things with silk cleaning that I feel I've discovered that is not widely known is that many stains actually crock with just a dry Q-tip or piece of paper towel. They're very often not cured. Now that goes from wine to coffee to blood spots to anything else. So I always do the dry crocking test on the stain itself to make sure I can remove the gross contaminants prior to using any liquid solvent or even dry powder for removal. So.
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture, the close-up of the arm. It looks like we're talking about a puffy texture.
Mhm.
Were you concerned about that or the colors bleeding into the light colored background?
So I'm always concerned about color bleed with silk and other natural fibers, in particular with silk, especially on a burlap back, because we all know that burlap is very absorbent and can also brown itself. So what I do in cleaning a chair like this, as long as I can get away with it, is to not saturate any of the areas that don't need it.
Mm.
I prefer to clean with dry cleaning fluid and a towel or a brush, and a fan. And then if there is a spot on the chair, like there was in this case, then I'll go ahead and be a little bit more aggressive. But I always err on the side of caution. This is where my mentors in the IICRC have really drilled it into my head to use distilled water, to use the least aggressive, solvents that we have. Like Mark, for instance, Exner taught me about the barrier method, where you spray down or apply petroleum to reduce the absorbency rate of the fabric. And then you go ahead and wet clean, as best you can or as aggressively as you can. And then go ahead and dry clean it again. And what I find is that limiting risk when you're cleaning silk and controlling that risk during the process is the most important aspect. Like my mentor Tom always says, control the moisture, control the outcome. And that's almost any fabric, but it's
Mhm.
especially critical with silk.
So we're both part of the IICRC. I've taken all the classes, you've taken classes. It's great to have mentors that teach us, and I value that. So really, you're just taking things you've learned and you've honed your skill, but you also stop and think about what you're doing.
Yeah. I was trained initially by a guy named Yale Smith out here in San Francisco, and he was very reputable. But even he had his hangups and the ways that he would go about things. And I was always a little bit trepidatious when someone would say, well, I spent, five figures on this chair, or all the way up. I mean, people spend a lot of money on textiles these days. And if you're not careful, or if you don't take a moment the way that I'm advocating, you may end up getting hit with a bill or an insurance claim. And that's never fun for anybody. So
Yeah, this
I,
chair you're talking about, was it a single piece or was it a part of a set or?
this was actually a single piece. It
Okay.
was made by the designer in a bespoke fashion for the client, because they've tailored it for the client's colored preferences and fabric preferences. But for me, what I've seen happen on pieces like this is that when we wet clean them, the high-low of the pattern tends to flatten out, and the cut of the velvet style silk tends to lay lower and look lighter, especially in the areas where we use a lot of water. And that can never really go back to the way that it was unless we start with a petroleum solvent.
So that was a successful job. You didn't have to buy the chair.
No, I've actually never
It's
had
not,
an
you're not
insurance
sitting on that
claim.
chair, right?
No, no. It's fortunately, knock on wood, I've never had anything like that happen in my business.
Well, that
And
kind of ruins my next question. But anyway,
go ahead.
no, I was
Let's-
kidding. Let's talk about the next one. We have another chair that you cleaned that's a good example to talk about. It's a kind of a swivel rocker, beige. I don't see the same color issues here, but talk about that. Tell us about cleaning this and what was challenging.
So the most challenging thing for me is that I can't often undo the upholstery itself and see the frame, the wood
Mm.
frame, and the inside of it. If there's, I can tell generally if there's springs on the face cushion. But having a white silk um, novelty yarn upholstery um, poses a number of challenges to the dry cleaner, because not only can the wood frame wick some of that varnish or polyurethane through to the surface if you dry clean too heavily, but you can also end up with watermarks if you use the wrong pH or too much water and don't dry it fast enough. For me, this was somebody who called and said, I've had this for a number of years. It's dingy, it's dusty, it looks brand new, but when I touch it, it doesn't feel the same way. So the challenge for me in most of my jobs that I do is to actually clean something and have it look the exact same or better than when I started, and to have no blemish no change to the downside, because that's when the client's expectations really get um, in the way.
Hmm.
So, yeah.
Good details. Let's wrap up our conversation with this question. You talked about this a bit, customer expectations, but what do you tell a customer when you go in? I don't know if it matters if it's a first time or a repeat customer, but you're dealing with something like silk and you're concerned yourself. What do you tell them that puts their mind at ease, but sets their expectations where they should be?
Uh, Luckily for me, I work on referral, so I have a leg up in terms of people having faith that I'm gonna do my best and not mess up in any capacity. But normally, what I start with are the inherent um, sort of qualities, characteristics of fabrics. Many people think of browning as, catastrophic or scoring or gouge marks as things that are going to ruin a piece, when really those are some of the inherent um, characteristics of the fabric itself, because they're so delicate. And so I always, without making anyone sign a disclaimer, say that, listen, for some of this, we're going to have to wet clean a dry cleanable fabric, and there's risk in that. And these are the things that can happen, and these are the ways that I'm going to prevent it from happening. So I bring in my fans. First thing I do is set up my fans, do a color fastness test. All I take all the preliminary steps, fiber ID, in front of the client. And then they can see with that meticulousness that I'm not trying to just get in and out and clean the chair and make some money, that I actually am passionate about what I do.
All makes sense. That communication is so important. And I know when I've taken IICRC classes, even though we're supposed to learn the technical, that business stuff, the customer angle, communication is part of every discussion.
For me, it's been the backbone of my business.
Mm.
And I actually, for certain clients and new clients, I actually offer discounts for direct client relations. So there's no bureaucratic steps of going to tell the housekeeper something, who tells the secretary, who tells the homeowner, because, it is just so important. The trust is everything. The bigger the risk, the more things are worth. Or if there's a lot of sentiment, then you really have to gain and keep the trust from the client. So.
Absolutely. Well, folks, anyone watching this program, if you're going to clean silk or any delicate fabric, stop, think about what you're doing, communicate. Your approach should be to cause no damage and don't end up with a chair in your home that you didn't want. Right, Tim?
That's exactly.